There are places on Earth where the land itself feels like it is holding its breath, waiting for those who dare to cross it. West Texas is one of those places. The moment you leave behind the last clusters of towns, gas stations, and fast food signs, the world begins to unravel into something older, wilder, and less forgiving. The highways run like black ribbons across a pale, sunburnt canvas, and every mile you travel feels like a step farther away from civilization and deeper into another dimension. They call Texas a state, but it feels more like a country, and West Texas is its far frontier, the last edge of the map, where human ambition collides with the raw endurance of nature. Out here, the land does not soften itself for comfort. It does not bend to the will of those who pass through. Instead, it stands unapologetic, demanding respect. The sky seems bigger, the silence heavier, and the horizon so distant that it almost feels like time itself is stretched thin. The first thing you notice is the sheer openness. To the east, there are towns and cities buzzing with energy, but once you cross into the west, that energy fades into long stretches of nothingness. Flat desert plains sprawl endlessly, cut by dry riverbeds and the occasional flash of green where stubborn mesquite trees or cactus stand guard against the heat. The roads go on without end, broken only by the ghostly outline of oil rigs or windmills turning lazily against the Sunday. It is a place that strips you down. Out here, the noise of the modern world falls away. There are no skyscrapers, no bright lights, no constant hum of machines. What remains is you, the road, and a silence so vast it presses against your skin. At night, when the stars reveal themselves, it feels as though you are standing at the edge of the universe, the Milky Way spilling across the heavens like a river of fire. You realize, with a sudden jolt of humility, that you are small, not in a way that frightens, but in a way that awakens. Travelers often speak of the loneliness of West Texas, but to those who truly listen, it is not loneliness at all. It is presence. The land demands your attention, forces you to confront the thoughts you bury under routine and noise. Every mile is an invitation to reflection. Every horizon line is a reminder that there is always farther to go, always more beyond what the eye can see. But this is no gentle land of meditation. West Texas tests you. The sun is merciless, baking the earth into cracked mosaics of clay and stone. The wind blows hot and dry, carrying dust that stings the eyes and settles into the lungs. In summer, the heat is so intense that car engines overheat, water evaporates faster than it can be drunk, and the very air shimmers with mirages. In winter, icy winds sweep down from the mountains, cutting through layers of clothing and leaving frost on the desert floor. The extremes remind you that this land does not care about survival. It is up to you to earn it. And yet, despite its harshness, there is a strange beauty that cannot be denied. The sunsets stretch in colors you never imagined: orange melting into violet, crimson fading into indigo. The mountains rise suddenly from flatlands, jagged silhouettes like the bones of ancient giants left behind by time. The desert blooms unexpectedly after rare rains, carpeting the sands in wildflowers as if the earth itself remembers its softer side for a fleeting moment. People who come here for the first time often think they've landed on another planet. NASA has even tested equipment for Mars in parts of West Texas, and it makes sense. The desert, with its endless horizons and alien solitude, feels less like Earth and more like some otherworldly realm. Standing there, you begin to understand why so many myths and legends are born in landscapes like this, places that blur the line between reality and dream, where the natural world feels infused with the supernatural. But West Texas is not empty. Though the land appears vast and uninhabited, it is alive with stories. Ranchers whose families have worked the same land for generations, travelers who pass through and never leave, caught by the gravity of the place, drifters who vanish into the desert, their tales scattered like sand on the wind, and, woven into the very soil, the echoes of ancient peoples who once called this land sacred. Their presence lingers in the petroglyphs etched into canyon walls, in the burial sites hidden beneath stone, and in the unshakable feeling that you are never truly alone out here. The highways are long, and the towns are far apart, but each stop along the way carries its own character. Dusty diners with neon signs flickering at dusk, gas stations where locals gather, their conversations carried in accents as wide and rolling as the plains. Small towns where time feels slowed, where main streets are lined with faded storefronts, each one a testament to resilience in a place where survival is never guaranteed. For some, West Texas is a place to escape from city life, from obligations, from the constant weight of society. For others, it is a place to prove something to themselves, to history, to the land itself. And for a few, it is simply home, not because it is easy, but because it demands a kind of honesty the modern world has forgotten. Out here, there are no shortcuts, there is no pretending, the land shows you who you are, stripped bare against the horizon. As you drive farther, the edges of the map begin to blur. The road stretches endlessly, but you no longer measure distance by miles. You measure it by moments, the sudden cry of a hawk circling overhead, the shimmer of heat rising from the asphalt, the way the sky turns molten at dusk. You feel yourself pulled into a rhythm older than the world you left behind, a rhythm carved by wind, stone, and time itself. This is where the journey begins, at the edge of the map, where the familiar fades and the untamed cools. West Texas does not invite you gently, it dares you. It whispers to you through the silence, testing whether you are willing to listen. If you do, you may find that what lies ahead is not just another part of the country, but another world entirely. A world that strips you down, rebuilds you, and leaves you forever changed. Silence has many shapes. In a city, silence is rare, fleeting, always chased away by the hum of traffic, the vibration of air conditioning units, the murmurs of people pressed together by concrete walls. In the countryside, silence is softer, broken by the chirp of crickets or the wind moving through fields. But in the deserts of West Texas, silence is something else entirely. It is vast, ancient, and so complete that it feels almost alive. Here, the silence is not an absence of sound. It is a presence of stillness. It presses against you like the heat itself, wrapping you in an invisible cloak. Even the air seems to hold back, waiting. You notice it first when you step out of your car on an empty stretch of road. The engine clicks as it cools, and then nothing. No voices, no traffic. No rustle of trees, because there are no trees high enough to rustle. Just a stillness so deep it feels like the desert has swallowed the world whole. The land itself seems carved out by silence. Rolling stretches of dust and sand expand endlessly, broken only by distant mesas, their flat tops like the ruins of forgotten temples. Dry riverbeds cut through the ground like scars, reminders of ancient waters long vanished. The wind picks up now and then, moving across the land with a hiss, only to vanish again, leaving the stillness to reclaim its dominion. Out here, you begin to hear things you never noticed before. The crunch of gravel beneath your boots magnified 100 times. The faint whistle of air escaping your lungs, as though it too feels the pressure of the silence. Even your heartbeat seems louder, echoing inside your skull with every thud. It is disorienting, this stripping away of the familiar hum of life. You begin to realize how much of existence is padded by noise. Without it, you are left alone with yourself. The desert has always been a place of reckoning. Pilgrims, outlaws, wanderers all have come here, seeking or fleeing something. Some find answers, others find only the vast indifference of the land. The silence has no mercy. It does not comfort, it does not guide. It reflects. Whatever you carry inside, the desert amplifies until it fills the horizon. At midday, the silence is harsh. The sun glares from above, a white coin burning in a sky so pale it looks bleached. Shadows shrink to nothing. Heat rises in shimmering waves, bending the air into illusions. Water on the horizon, lakes that vanish when you chase them. The land glows with a brilliance that blinds the eyes, and the silence becomes oppressive, as though the desert itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to falter. But as evening approaches, everything changes. The desert exhales, the sun begins to sink, casting long shadows across the sand. The air cools, and with it, the silence softens. You can almost hear the land sigh in relief. The first stars appear, one by one, timid sparks against the darkening sky, and then, in an explosion of light, the heavens come alive. It is under this star-strewn sky that the silence transforms. No longer oppressive, it becomes holy. You stand in a cathedral without walls, the night sky its ceiling, the desert floor its altar. The silence is no longer absence, but invitation. You find yourself listening, truly listening, as though the earth itself is whispering secrets only those who endure its quiet can hear. There are stories, of course. Travelers speak of hearing voices in the desert, soft murmurs carried on the wind, whispers that sound like loved ones long gone. Some say it is the spirits of those who perished out here, their voices absorbed by the silence, replayed for the living like echoes of the past. Others claim the silence drives the mind inward until it begins to conjure what it longs to hear. Either way, the result is the same. The silence shapes you. The animals know this silence well. A coyote howls in the distance, its voice tearing through the stillness like a knife. For a moment, the desert answers another howl, fainter, carried from miles away. Then, just as quickly, silence reclaims its rule. Owls glide silently overhead, their wings cutting through the night without sound. Snakes slither beneath the sand, their movements so subtle they blend into the stillness. Even the insects seem quieter here, as though respectful of the vast hush that governs the land. But the silence is not empty. It holds memory. Beneath your feet lie the bones of mammoths and saber-toothed cats, buried in ancient soils from when this land was greener. The silence remembers the footsteps of Comanche and Apache, who once crossed these plains with stories etched into their songs. It remembers settlers who built homes from stone and wood, only to abandon them when the desert proved too unforgiving. It remembers gunfights, wagon trails, and the lonely cries of those who lost their way. Every silence in West Texas carries the weight of all that came before, a history written not in words, but in the unbroken stillness of the land. To some, this silence is unbearable. It gnaws at them, strips away the comfort of distraction. They leave quickly, relieved to return to the noise of the world, but for others, the silence becomes a kind of mirror, reflecting back the truths they cannot ignore. Out here, with no city lights, no engines, no chatter, you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed or parts you worked hard to bury. The desert does not judge. It simply listens. The silence waits, patient, unyielding. And if you stay long enough, if you surrender to it, you may hear something you never expected. Not the voices of ghosts, not the whispers of spirits, but the sound of your own soul rising to fill the endless quiet. It is in this silence that West Texas reveals its soul, not in the violence of storms or the brilliance of sunsets, but in the quiet that stretches for miles, reminding you that the world is older, vaster, and more mysterious than you will ever fully understand. The silence is not absence, it is presence. It is the heartbeat of the desert itself, steady and eternal, waiting for those brave enough to hear it. And so, as night falls fully and the stars blaze overhead, you stand in the center of that silence, small and fragile against the immensity of the land. You breathe, you listen, and for the first time, perhaps, you hear the universe itself, speaking in a language without words. Out of the flatness, they rise. At first, the horizon appears unbroken, an endless sheet of sand and scrub. Then, like ancient giants stirring from their slumber, the mountains emerge. They are sudden, almost shocking in their abruptness, jagged teeth piercing the horizon, their peaks etched in shadow against the blinding sky. West Texas is full of these giants. The Guadalupe Mountains, the Davis Mountains, the lonely ranges that appear like mirages only to harden into stone as you draw near. They are not the tallest in the world, nor the most famous, but there is something about them that feels eternal. Unlike the smooth slopes of younger mountains, these are sharp, scarred, and weathered by time itself. Every cliff face tells a story of centuries oceans that once covered this land, tectonic forces that thrust stone toward the heavens, storms that carved scars into their flanks. To stand before them is to feel both awe and humility. The mountains carry a weight that no words can quite capture. They are monuments of patience, reminders that while human lives flare briefly like sparks, stone endures. Generations are born, live, and die. But the giants remain, watching silently over the desert. As you approach, the air changes. The heat softens, replaced by a cool breath that seems to drift down from the peaks. Vegetation thickens, oak, juniper, and pine clinging stubbornly to the slopes, breaking the monotony of desert beige with deep greens. Streams, small and fragile, trickle down the canyons, hidden oases where life gathers. In these folds of stone, deer move quietly, mountain lions prowl unseen, and hawks circle the thermals, their cries echoing across the cliffs. But it is not just nature that dwells here. The mountains have always held a sacred place in human imagination. Long before settlers arrived, native peoples saw them as living beings, guardians of the land. Some believed the peaks were the bones of giants who once walked the earth, their bodies petrified by time. Others told stories of spirits who resided in the caves and canyons, watching over those who dared to cross. Even today, hikers and travelers speak of a presence in the mountains, a feeling that they are being observed by something older than memory. Climbing higher, the silence shifts. Unlike the suffocating stillness of the open desert, here the quiet is broken by the music of stone. Loose rocks tumble underfoot, carried down by gravity's slow pull. Winds funnel through narrow canyons, moaning like voices in the distance. At night, when the stars crown the peaks, the mountains loom as black silhouettes, vast and immovable. In their shadow, you feel smaller still, as if you have stumbled into the cathedral of the earth itself. It is no wonder that people are drawn to these giants. Ranchers build their homes in their foothills, seeking shelter from the winds. Artists sketch their outlines, trying to capture their impossible angles. Wanderers rest in their shade, finding reprieve from the desert Sunday. And dreamers, always the dreamers, look up at their summits and imagine what it would be like to stand at the very top, to see the world stretched endlessly below. But the giants demand respect. Their slopes are steep, their weather unpredictable. Storms gather quickly in the high country, lightning splitting the sky in sudden fury. Trails vanish into loose gravel, cliffs crumble without warning. Those who take the mountains lightly are reminded, often harshly, that stone is older and stronger than human ambition. The desert may strip you down, but the mountains test your will. And yet, for those who endure, the reward is unmatched. From the peaks, the land unfolds in every direction, desert plains stretching farther than the eye can see, the curvature of the earth almost visible in the vastness. It is a view that humbles and uplifts all at once, a reminder of how small one life is and how wide the world remains. The giants of stone do not speak, but they do not need to. Their presence is a language older than words. They stand as witnesses to time itself, guardians of the silence, keepers of stories carved not in ink but in rock. To walk among them is to walk in the shadow of eternity, and to leave them is to carry that weight forever. In West Texas, the sky is never just background, it is the main character. At dawn, the horizon glows faint gold, spilling light across the desert like a slow fire. By noon, the sky hardens into a ruthless blue, a dome of heat that dares you to endure. But it is at dusk when the heavens reveal their true power. The sun sinks, and suddenly the sky ignites crimson, orange, and violet bleeding together as if the world itself is aflame. The desert glows under this light, every rock and cactus transformed into silhouette. Then, just as quickly, darkness falls. Thunderheads sometimes gather, rising like towers of smoke, and when lightning splits the heavens, the whole land trembles in their glow. Here, the skies are not passive, they are alive, violent, and beautiful, forever reminding you that West Texas belongs to the elements, not to man. To the untrained eye, West Texas looks barren, a land too harsh to sustain life. But look closer, and you'll see a quiet resilience woven into every grain of sand. Cacti stand like sentinels, storing water in their thick skins, their blooms sudden bursts of color after rare rains. Mesquite trees twist and bend, their roots digging deep to drink from hidden reserves. Jackrabbits dart across the scrub, coyotes watch from the shadows, and rattlesnakes lie coiled beneath rocks, masters of patience. Even the smallest creatures, lizards basking on hot stone, ants building kingdoms beneath the dust, speak of endurance. Here, survival is not a gift but a battle, fought daily against heat, drought, and wind. Yet in this struggle, there is beauty. Every flower that blooms, every hawk that circles overhead is a reminder life does not just endure here, it thrives defiantly against the odds. West Texas is haunted, not by phantoms of mist and shadow, but by memories etched into the land. Rusted windmills creak in the wind, their blades turning above abandoned ranches where families once fought to carve a living from the desert. Faded storefronts line forgotten main streets, their windows broken, their signs sun-bleached by decades of relentless light. Old rail lines stretch into nowhere, relics of a time when progress roared across the plains before vanishing into silence. Campfire tales still whisper of outlaws who hid in canyons and of settlers who vanished under merciless skies. The land holds their stories in the ruins, in the weathered crosses marking lonely graves, in the stillness of empty towns. In West Texas, history never disappears, it lingers, half buried in dust, waiting for those who listen closely enough to feel the weight of the frontier's ghosts. When night falls in West Texas, the sky becomes an ocean of fire. Far from city lights, darkness reigns absolute, and into that darkness pour the stars, millions of them, sharp and endless. The Milky Way stretches like a silver river across the heavens, so vivid it seems close enough to touch. Constellations, once faint outlines in crowded skies, blaze with clarity here, their patterns ancient guides for travelers and dreamers alike. Shooting stars carve brief scars of light, while planets shine steady, guardians among the constellations. In that vast dome, silence deepens, and perspective shifts. You realize how small, how fleeting one life is against the immensity above. Yet there is comfort, too. Under these stars, you are part of something greater, a universe alive with mystery. In West Texas, night is not darkness but revelation, written in the language of stars beyond counting. The highways of West Texas stretch like black ribbons across an endless horizon, beautiful but merciless. Gas stations are few, towns farther still, and mistakes can turn costly in the blink of an eye. Heat warps the pavement by day, and at night, darkness swallows the road so completely it feels as if you're driving through a void. Wanderers, truckers, and drifters all share these lonely routes, each carrying their own story, each tested by distance and silence. Breakdowns here are more than inconveniences, they're trials of endurance, measured in water, patience, and grit. Yet, for those who endure, the road is also freedom. Every mile is a shedding of the past, every horizon a promise of something ahead. The unforgiving road does not bend to comfort, but for those willing to travel it, it offers something rarer than safety, the raw truth of journey itself. Beneath the vast skies of West Texas lie places where the earth itself feels holy. Ancient petroglyphs mark canyon walls, stories carved by hands long gone, yet still alive in stone. Sacred springs emerge from the desert floor, their waters once sustaining tribes who saw them as gifts from the spirits. Mesas rise like altars, their flat crowns touched by winds that carry whispers of prayers. To the native peoples, these lands were never empty, they were alive, inhabited by spirits, ancestors, and the memory of creation. Even today, travelers sense it, a hush in certain valleys, a weight in the air near burial sites, a presence that defies explanation. West Texas is not just harsh land to be crossed, it is sacred ground, demanding reverence. Here, every step feels heavier, every silence deeper, as though the desert itself remembers what we are too quick to forget, that the earth is not ours, but we are hers. West Texas is more than desert, mountains, or sky. It is a spirit, untamed and unyielding. It strips away illusions, leaving only what is real. The silence teaches patience, the storms teach humility, and the endless horizons teach both wonder and longing. Here, beauty and hardship walk side by side, reminding all who enter that nothing worth knowing comes without struggle. The land does not bend to man's will. Instead, it shapes those who pass through, carving resilience into their bones. For some, it is too harsh, too empty. But for others, it is freedom, a place where the soul can breathe as wide as the horizon itself. In West Texas, you do not conquer the land. You walk with it, endure it, and in that endurance, you discover something timeless. That this wild, unforgiving place is not just the edge of Texas, but the beating, eternal soul of it.